Somewhere in the ocean right now, a creature the size of your fingernail is doing something no other animal on Earth can do. It is reversing its own aging, not slowing it down, not fighting it. Actually reversing it, rewinding its body back to a younger version of itself, like pressing undo on a life that already ended. And it can do this over and over again, theoretically forever. Meet Turritopsis dohrnii. You probably know it by its more famous name, the immortal jellyfish. And if you think that sounds like science fiction, you are not alone. For decades, scientists assumed this animal was just an oddity, a weird exception that would eventually die like everything else. But the more they studied it, the stranger the story became. Because this tiny, nearly transparent creature is not just surviving, it is solving a problem that has haunted every living thing since the beginning of life itself: death. So how does it actually work? How can an animal just decide to become young again? The answer starts with understanding what this jellyfish looks like when it is fully grown. Picture something smaller than the tip of your pinky finger. A translucent bell, almost invisible in water, with delicate tentacles trailing beneath it. If you saw one swimming past you, you might not even notice. It looks like a tiny piece of glass come to life. Nothing about it screams immortality. But here is what happens when this jellyfish gets old, injured, or stressed by changes in water temperature. Instead of dying, it does something extraordinary. It sinks to the ocean floor. Its body begins to collapse. Its tentacles retract. Its bell, the dome-shaped top, starts to break down. To any outside observer, this creature appears to be dying. But it is not dying, it is transforming. What happens next is one of the most remarkable processes in all of biology. The jellyfish's cells do not decay. They rearrange. Its adult cells begin to change identity. Muscle cells become nerve cells. Skin cells become reproductive cells. The entire structure of the organism breaks down into a formless blob called a cyst. And then that blob attaches to a surface and grows into something completely different, a polyp. A polyp is the juvenile form of a jellyfish. It looks nothing like the adult. It is a small, stalk-like structure anchored to a rock or a piece of coral with tiny tentacles waving at the top. Think of it like a flower stem. This is where baby jellyfish come from, and here is the key: this polyp is genetically identical to the adult jellyfish that just collapsed. Same DNA, same organism, just reset to factory settings. From this polyp, new tiny jellyfish buds will grow. Each one is a clone of the original adult, and each one carries the same ability. When it gets old, it too can collapse and restart, indefinitely. This process has a name. Scientists call it transdifferentiation. Trans meaning across, differentiation meaning the process by which cells become specialized. So transdifferentiation literally means cells jumping across from one specialized type to another. Your cells do not do this. Once a human muscle cell becomes a muscle cell, it stays a muscle cell. It does not decide one day to become a brain cell. But in Turritopsis dohrnii, cells can do exactly that. They can lose their identity and rebuild themselves as something entirely new. The scientist who brought this creature into the spotlight was Shin Kubota, a marine biologist at Kyoto University in Japan. Kubota spent years studying Turritopsis dohrnii in his lab, watching the cycle happen again and again. He documented the transformation meticulously. He kept individual jellyfish alive through multiple cycles of reversal. And he became convinced that this animal was genuinely biologically immortal, not immune to death, but immune to aging. That distinction matters. The immortal jellyfish can still die. It can be eaten by a predator. It can be killed by disease. It can get sucked into a boat engine. What it cannot do is die of old age. When the process works, when the animal is not killed by external forces, it can theoretically continue cycling between adult and juvenile stages forever. Kubota himself described it as a creature that has defeated death from the inside. But for years, the deeper question remained unanswered. How? How at the genetic level does this animal pull off something so radical? What instructions in its DNA allow cells to erase their own identity and start over? In 2022, a team of researchers at the University of Oviedo in Spain finally cracked part of that code. Led by Maria Pascual-Torner, the team sequenced the full genome of Turritopsis dohrnii, mapping every gene in its DNA, and compared it to the genome of a closely related jellyfish species that cannot reverse its aging. The differences were striking. Turritopsis dohrnii has unique duplications in genes related to DNA repair, telomere maintenance, and stem cell protection. Let me break that down in plain language. Telomeres are the protective caps at the ends of your chromosomes. Every time a cell divides, those telomeres get a little shorter. In humans, this shortening is a clock. It counts down your cellular age. When telomeres get too short, the cell can no longer divide. It ages. It dies. This is one of the primary mechanisms of human aging. Turritopsis dohrnii has extra copies of genes that protect and rebuild those telomeres. It is as if the organism has a built-in backup system for its own biological clock. When the clock runs low, it does not just pause, it resets. The Spanish team also found enhanced activity in genes that control DNA repair. Every day, your DNA accumulates thousands of tiny breaks and errors from radiation, chemical exposure, and simple copying mistakes. Your body fixes most of them, but not all. Over a lifetime, those unrepaired errors accumulate, causing the slow deterioration we call aging. Turritopsis dohrnii has a dramatically more efficient repair toolkit. Its genes essentially catch errors that yours would miss. And then there is the most fascinating piece. Pascual Torner's team found that the jellyfish activates a unique set of genes during its transformation that are associated with cellular reprogramming. The same kinds of genes that scientists study when they create stem cells in a laboratory. In other words, this tiny animal does naturally and effortlessly what human researchers need advanced technology to even attempt. Now, before you start wondering whether humans could ever unlock this ability, there is an important reality check. Turritopsis dohrnii is a remarkably simple organism. It has no brain, no heart, no lungs. Its body is about 95% water. The complexity of rewiring a human body with trillions of specialized cells, interconnected organs, and a central nervous system is an entirely different challenge. You cannot just press reset on a human the way this jellyfish resets itself. Our cells are locked into their identities in ways that are essential for us to function as complex beings. And this is where it gets exciting, the underlying mechanisms are not completely foreign to us. Scientists studying aging, regenerative medicine, and cellular reprogramming are actively investigating the same genetic pathways that Turritopsis dohrnii exploits. Research into telomerase, the enzyme that rebuilds telomeres, has been ongoing for decades. Studies on induced pluripotent stem cells, adult cells reprogrammed to behave like stem cells, earned Shinya Yamanaka the Nobel Prize in 2012. The immortal jellyfish is not just a curiosity. It is a blueprint, a living proof of concept that aging is not an inevitable law of biology. It is a problem, and problems can, in theory, be solved. Here is something else that might surprise you. This jellyfish was not always where you might expect to find it. Turritopsis dohrnii was first identified in the Mediterranean Sea, but over the past few decades, it has spread to nearly every ocean on the planet. Scientists have found it off the coasts of Japan, the United States, Brazil, Spain, and many other places. It hitchhikes on ship hulls and in ballast water. There are potentially immortal jellyfish drifting past you right now, no matter where you live on Earth. And because each individual can theoretically restart its cycle indefinitely, the population does not follow normal generational rules. One organism could, in principle, produce genetically identical clones across centuries. And yet, despite all of this, the immortal jellyfish is not invincible. In the wild, most Turritopsis dohrnii do not actually achieve immortality. They get eaten. They get infected. They get caught in currents that wash them onto shore. Biological immortality is not a guarantee. It is a capability, an option the creature can exercise if conditions allow. Much like a person who has the knowledge to grow their own food, but still starves if someone locks them out of their garden. There is something deeply poetic about that. Immortality exists in nature. It is real. It has been swimming through the world's oceans for millions of years, but even immortality does not make you untouchable. It just gives you a chance. So the next time someone tells you that death is the one certainty of life, remember this. Somewhere in the ocean right now, a creature the size of your fingernail is doing the impossible. It is pressing undo. It is turning back its own clock. It is living proof that the rules you think are absolute are more like suggestions. And all it took was a body with no brain, no heart, and no plan, just cells that refuse to accept the end.